Last Christmas, I walked into my parents' house in upstate New York, bracing for the usual holiday chaos. Overcooked ham, my mom's slightly burnt cranberry pie. Pulling out those dusty photo albums from the hallway closet like it was some grand surprise. We all smiled, flipping through faded snapshots of birthdays and beach trips. But I felt the familiar sting of being the odd one out. Then Lucas froze, his hand gripping mine under the table. "Don't you see it?" he whispered, his voice sharp with urgency. My stomach dropped. Something about those old photos was about to unravel my entire world. As the Christmas lights flickered in my parents' living room, casting a warm glow over the worn-out couch, we settled in for Mom's annual photo album ritual. It was a tradition as predictable as her overbaked sugar cookies, and I braced myself for the nostalgia overload. Lucas, my fiancé, sat close, his hand resting lightly on my knee, his graphic designer's eye always scanning for details. The first album came out, a faded relic of birthdays and beach trips. The kind of photos that make you laugh at your bad haircuts and oversized sweaters. My sister, Nina, leaned in, her wine glass tilting precariously, while her boyfriend faked enthusiasm like a pro. Mom narrated each page with the same stories I'd heard a dozen times, how I tried to adopt a stray cat with a pine cone, or the summer we got lost at Coney Island. I nodded along, half listening, my mind drifting to the freelance pitch I needed to finish for a client back in Brooklyn. The room felt cozy but stifling, like a sweater that's just a size too small. Then came the second album, a chronicle of Nina's baby years, Mom glowing, Dad beaming, the perfect family portrait. I felt that familiar pang, the one that reminded me I was always a little outside the frame. Lucas flipped through the pages, his usual calm demeanor unshaken, but I noticed his fingers lingering on certain photos, his brow furrowing slightly. By the time we hit the third album, my album, something shifted. These were the pictures of me as a kid. Awkward embraces, standing in front of random backdrops like stone walls or rusty swing sets. I barely paid attention, but Lucas did. His shoulders tensed, and he tilted his head, the way he does when he's spotting a glitch in a design project. He squinted at one photo, then another, his movements deliberate, like he was piecing together a puzzle no one else could see. I caught his eye, expecting a smirk or a quip about my old pigtails, but his face was unreadable. "Don't you see it?" he whispered, his voice low, barely audible over Mom's chatter about my fifth-grade science fair. His hand found mine under the table, gripping it with an urgency that made my pulse spike. "See what?" I murmured back, confused, scanning the photo he was staring at, a shot of me in a pink coat, grinning in front of a stone wall. It looked normal, just another relic of my childhood. "How can you not see it?" He pressed, his tone sharper now, but still hushed, like he didn't want to alarm the room. I frowned, leaning closer, but all I saw was me, frozen in time, my smile a little too wide, my eyes a little too bright. Lucas flipped back to an earlier page, then forward again, his fingers moving faster now, comparing photos. I tried to follow his gaze, but my mind was stuck, caught in the dissonance of his intensity and the mundane holiday scene around us. Mom was still talking, oblivious, recounting how I'd once spilled grape juice on her favorite rug. Nina laughed, her boyfriend nodded, and Dad sipped his coffee, but Lucas was somewhere else entirely. His eyes darted between photos, and I could almost hear the gears turning in his head, the same focus he brings to retouching images for his freelance clients. "Same angle," he muttered, almost to himself. "Same smile, same shadows." I blinked, trying to catch up. "What are you talking about?" I whispered, my voice barely steady. He didn't answer right away, just pointed to another photo, me by a swing set, then another by a fountain. The settings changed, but my face didn't. It was the exact same expression, down to the tilt of my head, the curve of my lips. It wasn't just similar, it was identical, like someone had copy-pasted me into different scenes. My stomach churned, a cold unease creeping up my spine. I'd seen these photos 100 times, but now they felt wrong, like a song played just a half note off key. Lucas's grip on my hand tightened, grounding me as my ears started to ring, a faint buzz that drowned out Mom's voice. I forced a smile, nodding along as she moved to another story, but my skin felt like it was on backward, prickling with a dread I couldn't name. Lucas kept flipping pages, his movements casual to anyone watching, but I saw the tension in his jaw, the way his eyes flicked to me, checking if I was okay. I wasn't. I leaned in, my voice barely a breath. "What's going on?" He shook his head, almost imperceptibly. "I'll explain later," he said, his tone calm but firm. "Just go along with it." Go along with it. Those words hit like a punch, echoing every time I'd swallowed my feelings to keep the peace in this family. I nodded, my smile brittle, and kept my eyes on the album, pretending to laugh at Mom's stories while my mind raced. What had Lucas seen? Why did these photos, ones I'd glanced at every Christmas for years, suddenly feel like a lie? My heart pounded, but I played my part, the good daughter, the one who doesn't make waves. Lucas flipped another page, his fingers steady, but I could feel his unease mirroring mine. The room carried on. Nina's laughter, Dad's gruff comments, the clink of coffee mugs, but for me, it was like the air had thickened, pressing against my chest. I wanted to grab the album, demand answers, but I stayed quiet, trapped in a moment, my thoughts spiraling. As Mom closed the album with a satisfied sigh, I felt like I was unraveling. Lucas's words looped in my head. "Don't you see it?" And I couldn't shake the feeling that I was staring at a truth I wasn't ready to face. The photos, those frozen moments of my childhood, weren't just memories. They were a puzzle. And Lucas had found a piece that didn't fit. I glanced at him, his face now a mask of polite interest, but his hand still held mine, a silent promise that we'd figure this out together. My throat tightened, and I forced myself to laugh at something Nina said, but inside, I was already falling, tumbling into a mystery that would change everything I thought I knew about my family. While I stared out the window, the Christmas lights blurring into streaks of red and green. My mind was still stuck in my parents' living room, replaying Lucas's whisper, "Don't you see it?" And the way those old photos had suddenly felt like strangers. We'd left early, mumbling some excuse about a work call, and Mom had fussed, her voice sharp with disappointment, while Dad barely looked up from his coffee. Nina was glued to her phone, as usual. I kissed them goodbye, my lips moving on autopilot, but inside, I was unraveling. Threads of my life pulling loose with every mile we drove. Back at our place, Lucas didn't waste time. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a few photos he'd slipped from the pile beside Mom's albums. I hadn't even noticed him take them, but there they were, creased at the edges, laid out on our kitchen table like evidence in a crime show. "Look," he said, his voice steady but urgent, pushing the photos toward me. The first was me, maybe 6, in a pink coat, standing in front of a stone wall. I'd seen it before, a snapshot burned into my memory like wallpaper you hate, but can't replace. "It's just a photo," I said, my voice flat, trying to dismiss the unease crawling up my spine. Lucas shook his head, handing me 2 more. "Same face," he said, pointing. "Same angle, same smile, same shadows. Look closer." I did, my hands trembling as I held the photos up to the light. There I was again by a swing set, then at a fountain, but it wasn't just me, it was the exact me. The same frozen grin. The same tilt of my head, copied and pasted into different scenes like a bad Photoshop job. My breath caught, and I felt my chest tighten, like the room was shrinking. "They reused my face," I said. Then he slid another photo across the table, a baby, pale, with light hair and a different bone structure. "That's not you," he said quietly. "I don't think they ever had baby pictures of you." The words hit like a punch, knocking the air out of me. I stared at the baby, then at the other photos, my face repeating like a glitch. The final photo was me, Mom, and Dad in front of some old building, but my outline was fuzzy, the shadows off, like I'd been slapped onto the scene like a sticker. I laughed, not a real laugh, but the kind that spills out when something inside you cracks. "So, I'm a collage," I said, trying to make it a joke, but my voice broke. Lucas didn't smile. Why would they fake this? I asked, half expecting him to have an answer. He didn't. Neither did I. But the question hung there, heavy, like a debt I didn't know I owed. That night, as Lucas slept beside me, I sat up in bed. There was a woman, not the mom I grew up with, but someone else. Dark eyes, a soft voice, the faint scent of citrus. I was holding her hand, small and warm, and then she was gone. Replaced by the woman I called Mom, her smile too sharp, her grip too tight. I remembered her voice, cold and final. If you talk about her, you disappear. The words hit me now, clear as day, though I hadn't thought of them in years. I was 5, maybe, crying for Mama, my legs kicking in a strange bed, my chest burning with panic. Another voice, hers, the one I called Mom, snapped, "Enough." I hadn't remembered that moment until now, but it was there, buried under years of being told to smile for the camera. My heart raced, and I felt the room spin, my palms pressing into the mattress like it could anchor me. I was a freelancer, used to piecing together stories for clients, but this was different. This was my life, and it was coming apart. I thought of my childhood, how I had no memories before 5, how Mom and Dad always said it was because of the war, some vague trauma they never explained. I'd believed them because what was the alternative? Telling my second-grade teacher I didn't remember being a toddler? I thought of the fluorescent-lit hallway, my first clear memory. Standing in an immigration office, Mom's hand on my shoulder, her eyes demanding I perform. The buzz of lights, the cold air, the clipboard in a stranger's hand. It was all wrong, but I'd buried it. Like I'd buried everything else. I looked at the photos again, my face staring back, a lie repeated in every frame. Lucas stirred, his hand reaching for mine in the dark, but I couldn't move. My mind was racing, pulling up more fragments, a woman's gentle hands, a coat I didn't want to wear, the sound of screaming, my own voice calling for someone who wasn't there. I felt like I was drowning, the weight of it pressing down until I couldn't breathe. Why would they do this? I whispered to the dark, but the photos didn't answer. They just sat there mocking me. Proof that my life was a story someone else had written. Lucas woke, his voice soft but firm. "We'll figure it out," he said, but I could hear the worry in his tone. The same worry I felt clawing at my chest. I was staring at the truth, and it was tearing me apart. The weight of the photos on my nightstand felt like a boulder pressing against my chest, each one a silent accusation that my life wasn't what I'd been told. It was past midnight, the Brooklyn apartment cloaked in darkness except for the dim glow of my bedside lamp. Lucas lay beside me. The photos, my face, copied and pasted, the baby who wasn't me, stared back, demanding answers I didn't have. My hands shook as I reached for my phone, the screen's cold light cutting through the dark. I didn't think, didn't plan. I just dialed 911, the numbers feeling foreign under my fingers, like I was stepping into someone else's story. The operator picked up on the third ring. Her voice calm and professional. 911, what's your emergency? My throat tightened, words caught behind a wall of panic. Lucas stirred, sitting up, his eyes locking onto mine as I forced the words out. "I've been kidnapped," I said, my voice cracking, barely above a whisper. There was a pause, sharp and heavy, before she responded, her tone gentler now. "Ma'am, are you safe right now?" I nodded, then realized she couldn't see me. "I think so," I managed. "I'm home. It was a long time ago. I think I just remembered it." My chest felt like it was caving in, my breath shallow as I tried to explain. "They weren't my parents. I was 5. I think they took me." Lucas reached over, his hand steady on my back. "She's been uncovering things, childhood photos that look edited, no birth records, weird inconsistencies. She believes she was abducted when she was around 5, about 25 years ago. You'll hear from someone soon. If you feel unsafe, call back immediately." Lucas thanked her, hung up, and set the phone down, his hand still on my back. I was shaking. I felt like I'd cracked open a door I couldn't close, and whatever was on the other side was coming for me. The next few hours were a blur. I moved through the apartment like a ghost. Folding laundry, I didn't remember starting, emptying the dishwasher, wiping down counters that were already clean. Lucas hovered nearby, making tea I didn't drink. My hands searching for something to do, anything to keep the panic at bay. I was a freelancer, used to controlling chaos, deadlines, client revisions, last-minute pitches, but this was different. This was my life, and it was slipping through my fingers like sand. I kept expecting the world to react to what I'd done, for sirens to blare, or someone to knock on the door. But the apartment stayed quiet, the hum of the fridge mocking my turmoil. I replayed the photos in my mind, my face duplicated across scenes, the baby who wasn't me, the fuzzy edges where I didn't belong. I thought of the memories that had surfaced, the woman with dark eyes, the citrus scent, the cold voice telling me not to speak. My whole childhood felt like a lie, a carefully curated pitch deck for a family that never existed. I wondered what the police would do, if they'd believe me, if they'd think I was crazy for calling about something that happened 25 years ago. The next morning, an email pinged in my inbox, stark and official. Case file opened. Pending contact from an assigned officer. I showed it to Lucas, who read it twice, his jaw tight. "It's real now," he said, and I nodded, though real felt like a word too small for what was happening. Real was the panic attack that had left me gasping on the kitchen floor. Real was the way my past was collapsing, piece by piece, like a startup that never had a solid foundation. I thought of my parents, Mom's forced smiles, Dad's distant grunts, and wondered what they'd say when the police called. Would they lie again? Would they even care? I tried to work, opening my laptop to tweak a client's branding deck, but the words blurred, my focus shattered. Lucas sat across from me, sketching on his tablet, but I could tell he was watching me, ready to catch me if I fell. We were a team, always had been, whether it was late-night brainstorming sessions or navigating family drama. But this was bigger than anything we'd faced, and I could feel the weight of it pressing on us both. I kept checking my phone, waiting for the police to call, for some kind of resolution to pull me out of this limbo. The apartment felt too small, the city too loud, and I wondered if I'd ever feel steady again. I'd called the police, set something in motion. But now I was just waiting, caught between the life I thought I knew and the truth I was afraid to face. 2 days after my 911 call, the apartment felt like a holding cell. The silence between Lucas and me heavy with unspoken questions. I was folding laundry for the third time that morning, a freelancer's trick to feel in control when everything else was spiraling. Lucas was at his desk, sketching logos for a client, but his eyes kept flicking to me, checking if I was still standing. Then came the knock, 3 sharp taps, deliberate, like someone delivering bad news. I opened the door to find Mom holding a brown paper bag, Dad looming behind her, hands stuffed in his coat pockets. "Can we come in?" Mom asked, already stepping forward, her voice bright but brittle, like she was pitching a sail. I nodded, my throat tight, and Lucas appeared beside me. His presence a quiet anchor as they sat on our thrift store couch, looking out of place in our Brooklyn loft. Mom set the bag on the coffee table, her hands fidgeting. "I brought that carrot soup you like," she said, referencing a time when I was 8 and she told me to stop crying over a fever because I wasn't dying. I stared at the bag, my voice flat. Her tone clipped, like I'd betrayed her by making the call. "They said you filed a report." I nodded, my pulse quickening. "I did." She looked like she wanted to argue, but didn't have the energy. "You should have come to us first," she said. I met her eyes, unflinching. "Would you have told me the truth?" The room went quiet, the kind of silence that feels like it's holding its breath. Lucas crossed his arms, his gaze steady, and Dad finally spoke, his voice low. "You're not biologically ours." The words landed like a stone in still water, rippling through me. I exhaled. Not relieved, just confirmed. Mom nodded, her hands clasped tight. "Your mother was young, too young. She couldn't take care of you. She begged us to take you with us." I frowned. The word begged sharp in my mind. "Begged," I repeated. "She wanted you to have a better life," Mom said, her voice softer now. "We were leaving Serbia. She was staying." It was war. She knew what that meant. I pressed, my voice sharp. Where is she now? Mom's eyes dropped. We don't know. Lucas leaned forward. You never checked? Mom's face tightened. It was complicated. Lucas's voice was calm but cutting. Why fake the photos? Dad didn't flinch. We didn't want her to feel like she didn't belong. I laughed, a bitter sound. So, you erased my real life and invented one? Mom's voice cracked, her composure fraying. You were 5. You cried for her for weeks. It was awful. But you adjusted. You forgot. We thought it was better that way. I felt my anger rise, hot and sharp. You think I don't hate you for this? The silence that followed was deafening. Mom pulled a photo from her bag, me, maybe 6, holding Dad's hand. This one's real, she said, like it could fix everything. I didn't touch it. They stood, Dad's voice final. We didn't steal you. We rescued you. I didn't answer. And for a fleeting moment, I almost believed them. That night, Lucas and I turned to the internet, our laptops open, coffee mugs cold on the table. I typed Mara Petrovic into Facebook. My Serbian rusty, but enough to navigate. The search yielded dead ends, a florist in Novi Sad, a gym teacher in Belgrade, until I clicked on a grainy profile. A woman, early 50s. Dark hair pulled back, no smile. My stomach dropped. Her face wasn't just familiar. It was mine, mirrored across decades. She looks like you, Lucas said, his voice soft. I shook my head. No. I look like her. The resemblance was uncanny. Same jawline, same eyes, same unguarded expression. Her profile listed a town in southern Serbia, one I vaguely recalled Mom mentioning years ago, and stared at the screen like it might answer back. The reply came the next morning. Can we talk? My hands shook as Lucas set up the video call, his calm efficiency a contrast to my nerves. I wrapped myself in a blanket, feeling like I was about to meet a stranger from a dream I didn't know I'd had. When her face appeared on the screen, older but unmistakable, my breath caught. She stared at me, her hand covering her mouth, eyes welling up. I wasn't sure, she said, her voice thick with emotion. But now that I see you, I couldn't speak, the lump in my throat choking me. I've been looking for you for 25 years, she said, calling me Melina, a name that felt foreign but right, like a key turning in a forgotten lock. She told me everything. She hadn't given me up. I was 5, left with a trusted neighbor while she ran to a municipal office during the war. When she returned, I was gone. They said you went with her, she said, her voice breaking. But you never came home. She searched police stations, camps, flyers, but children vanished in war and no one could help. She'd been approved for a U.S. resettlement program, priority for families with kids, but when I disappeared, they removed her from the list. The truth hit me like a freight train. My adoptive parents didn't take me out of love. They needed me, a child, to secure their escape. I sat in silence, Lucas beside me, his hand on mine, as Mara's words filled the gaps in my life. I wasn't Isabel. I was Melina, and the life I'd lived was built on a lie. The dust had settled, but the air in our Brooklyn apartment still felt charged, like the calm after a storm you didn't see coming. The police investigation wrapped up faster than I expected. My adoptive parents were found guilty of immigration fraud and child abduction, their American dream revoked along with their citizenship. They were deported back to Serbia, no appeals, no second chances. My sister, Nina, stayed, her American roots keeping her here. She didn't say much at first, but one day she showed up with coffee and admitted, that was messed up. It wasn't an apology, but it was enough to start rebuilding something real between us. Meanwhile, Mara, my real mom, moved to the U.S. through a family reunification program, her new life starting at a bakery near our place, the smell of fresh bread reminding her of home. Lucas and I are planning our wedding, and seeing Mara's name on the guest list feels like a victory. For the first time, I'm free, not from the past, but from its weight. I used to wonder if I'd gone too far. Now I'm curious. What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments.